Hello, everyone. This is another amazing leadership in our industry. Let me introduce Greg and Michail. Yeah. Welcome.
Yay!
Hey, Greg, good to see you again. And
See you.
I really want to see you for in person and listen more about your story and also your family and your business. And thank you for your time. How about Eric right now?
Oh, LA is recovering.
Mhm.
A lot of the recovery efforts are underway. Our office was impacted. We had to close for a week, I think, just
Oh,
because of all the smoke damage, and several of my brokers, unfortunately, were
mhm.
evacuated. But thankfully, everybody is safe,
Oh,
most
praise the Lord.
importantly. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, but our hearts continue to go
Mhm.
out to all of our neighbors, all of our clients, all of our,
Mhm.
friends and family that were
Sure.
impacted by this.
Mm.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you. Thank you. Why don't you introduce yourself and your family? Are you over 10 years in business broker industry? And also, can you introduce about you, yourself,
Yeah,
and Cat,
absolutely.
please?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so my name is Greg Michail. I'm with Sunbelt Business Brokers of Pasadena. We are one of a handful of Sunbelt offices across the US and Canada, 150 approximately.
Mm,
I'm the managing broker. I've got 8 agents under me, and we specialize in what we call Main Street and Mid Street businesses. So those are businesses or with revenues anywhere from 1 million to $30 million, and sale prices of 500,000 to 15 million.
mm,
With really our sweet spot being that 500,000 to $7.5 million space. We're industry agnostic. What that means is that we like a variety of different types of businesses:
mm,
manufacturing, transportation, logistics, wholesale distribution, professional service businesses, and trade businesses.
mm,
We don't do a lot of coin laundries, gas stations, liquor stores, restaurants, bars.
mm,
We know several excellent cab business brokers that we refer
mm.
those deals out to.
Wow.
I'm actually a second generation business broker. So the joke in our office is that this is the one business that my mom won't sell.
Mhm.
Both my parents are mathematicians by trade and stumbled upon business brokerage, and it's been in the family ever since.
Mm. Yeah, so you mentioned about the cab broker. What is cab? What is the mission and role of cab?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my and so the business brokerage is what I do in the daytime. At nighttime, when I've got some a little bit of free time, I actually sit on the board for the California Association of Business Brokers. It's an industry association
Mhm.
whose goal is to increase the level of professionalism and the reach of business brokers. So people that are helping business owners buy and sell businesses. I've been affiliated now ever since I've been in the industry. I've been on the
Mhm.
board for the past 2 years. I actually run our annual CABB conference, and finally, I'm the incoming president-elect.
Wow. And Greg, then what is your for outlook and trend of 2025 in our side and also for other brokers and also including SBA loan
Mhm.
bankers? That looks busy in the first quarter. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah,
2025.
absolutely. Well, I think to put it in context,
Mm,
you know, our our business, and I can speak for myself, and it's also what I see out in the industry anecdotally.
mm,
Um, we're coming off of several very strong years. Besides the little bit of a hiccup created during the pandemic, those first few months of the pandemic, our offices year after year put up very strong performance. And so it looks like that trend is not only continuing, but growing as well. I can say very confidently we will list the most number of businesses that we've listed over the past 4 years
mhm,
in Q1. So we're already at a very hot start. Um, the holiday season was a little bit slow, but I think, once Q1 hit, a lot of business owners really started to process, and ones that had maybe been on the fence have decided to move forward. So We're going really strong across all categories of businesses that we cover. Uh, the SBA, thankfully, the pipes are still continuing to flow.
Mhm.
I think what you saw during the post-pandemic period is that banks just tried to get smarter about what they were lending on, but on good deals, they were still continuing to lend.
That's right.
And I think that that's a distinct difference. Actually, prior to joining business brokerage, I was actually in the banking world. So I spent 11 years with Wells Fargo in store manager roles and private banking roles. And I remember how quickly the spigots shut off in 2008 and how
Mm.
difficult it was to open those back up.
That's right.
So I'm still very encouraged by what we're seeing out of the lending space with third-party lending. And, for reference, because I think because of the space that we're dealing in, that 500,000 to, $7.5 million transaction space, that's the prime
Mm.
space for SBA lenders. And so most of the buyers that we're working with, in
Mm.
fact, at last count, it was 80% of the businesses that we sold had SBA financing on it.
That's right.
So, you know, I'm crossing fingers that they continue to lend because then that'll
Mm.
severely impact our business.
That's right. I think that SBA lending program is one of the distinguished
Mhm,
business ecosystem in United States for
mhm.
buy and sell business. There is not like this for SB7A, especially other countries. But I think the SBA is one of the good growth engine of economy of America. And also, what do you think you are for? Which one is better, buy existing business or startup? I live in the Silicon Valley area. This is very pop and amazing culture of startup, but
Yes.
we can see the data. Why buying existing business is better than startup?
Yeah, it's a wonderful question. And actually a lot of my friends, especially over the years, have come forward to me and said, "Hey Greg, what do you think about me opening up this type of business?" And I say, it's a I mean, it can be an excellent opportunity, right? To have the pride associated with starting something from the ground up.
Mm.
But let's walk through what that process actually looks like, right? And I'll count it through with them. I'll say, okay, first and foremost, you've got to come up with a business concept, right? A business plan. What industry do you want to be in?
Mm.
Who are the prospective clientele that you want to serve?
Mm.
Then you have to come up with your own business plan. You have to you have to figure out all the processes that you need to have in place before your doors even open.
Got
Then you need to go out and you need to buy all the furniture, fixture, and equipment to generate whatever product or service that you're offering. You have to hire all the employees and start paying them for training before you've
Mhm.
done anything else. You need to find a place to lease. It's unlikely that you're going to be buying on that front end. Um, and then you open your doors.
That's
And
right.
then it's only at that point that you figure out if your business concept is viable, right?
Mm. Mm.
And what we've tended to find, and unfortunately, I've seen it time and time again with business owners that come to us and say, "Hey, I built up this business from the ground up. I've invested my life savings into it,
Mhm.
and in fact, we've had our doors open now for 3 months. We're really starting to gain traction in the community, but we've run out of money. Can you help us sell our business? Can you help me get
Mm.
back
Mm.
my initial investment?"
Mm.
And unfortunately, most of the times, there's too much risk associated with that for a potential buyer.
Mm.
And I tell my friends to juxtapose, that initial startup, which they can probably get, if we're all being honest, that initial investment is probably going to be lower on the whole than if they bought a well-run existing company.
That's
But the
right.
benefits of buying an existing company are you have your product or service already in the marketplace. You have a long list of clientele that you've been servicing with that and who
Mm.
generally are loyal because they keep on coming back. You've got your suppliers or distributors in place.
That's right.
You
Mm.
have your employees in place, right? And you've got a
Mm.
proven business model, and you are making money on day one when you buy that business.
That's right. Cash flow.
Yeah, exactly. And so for that simple comparison, I think it paints a pretty clear picture of why,
Mm,
you know, and it's funny because of all those things that I just mentioned, I'll tell you what the number one thing that I tell buyers is of why it makes more sense to buy an existing business than start one off the ground.
mm,
Um, you know, the cash flow is nice, the employees in place are nice, having relationships already established with your vendors and exhibitors, those are all great things.
mhm,
But truthfully, what the buyer is buying is access to the seller who's made all the mistakes along the way,
mhm.
right? The sellers tried out certain, hiring from
Yeah.
certain employees from different areas, right? They've worked with different vendors. They've adjusted their pricing and realized their pricing mistakes. You're buying all of that institutional knowledge and all that personal knowledge, and that's why we focus so much on that transitionary
Mm,
period in a sale, because it's an opportunity for a buyer to really soak up like a sponge all the mistakes that the seller
mm,
has made, right? And what's worked well too.
mm.
Hmm.
I fully agree. And also environment and community is different for conventional bank and SBA.
Hmm.
They don't want to take risk. But with venture capital, they
Hmm.
can take risk for long term and also long term and short term and high returns. That's why for that community is different and
Hmm.
culture is different and the
Absolutely.
ecosystem also different as well. Great. Then when you are kind of mediator or peacemaker, buyer
Mhm.
or seller,
Mhm.
and then what is most of consideration, consider matter of seller side or a buyer side in your own experience?
Yeah, I think from the sell side, it is, and it's actually part of our onboarding or our pre-listing system is we'll actually have a conversation with not only the business owner, but also their important advisors, right? I want to make sure that either they've spoken and begun planning with both their financial advisor and their tax advisor, right?
Mhm,
Tax advisor is especially important in the transaction because what we've found time and time again is that a seller that has good books and records, or a business that has good books and records associated with it, is going to have a
mhm,
significantly higher likelihood of closing a sale than one that, their records are everywhere.
mhm,
And they're also going to have a higher likelihood of commanding a higher or a premium on their sale price compared to business owners. And so there have been instances in the past where we've worked with really great sellers and we've said, listen, you've got an amazing business model, but you're still using a graphite pencil
mhm.
and a paper ledger for tracking all of your invoices. By making this more seamless and actually updating it with technology,
Yeah.
you're going to make your business more valuable.
Mm,
Collecting, not saving on your phone, but actually having in a customer relationship management tool or program all of your business contacts, that's going to make it more transferable when you
mhm,
sell. So I think the most important thing is for a business owner, for me, and this is actually what I advise all the business owners that we work with, if they have enough runway,
mm.
you know, understand what the tax implications are on a potential sale.
Uh-huh.
Do your tax returns and internal financial statements reconcile with your bank statements? Are
Mm,
you going to have enough money to retire if we're able to accomplish this sale
mm,
price? The last thing I want is for somebody at the 11th hour, a business owner at the 11th hour, to realize they're not going to be able to sell their business, which is usually their largest asset across the board, for what they need to in order to ride off into the sunset and accomplish all the things that they've worked all these years to
mm.
do. So those are really important things, and usually the target is at least 3 to 5 years before planned exit.
That's right. Mm,
Start planning on leveraging
mm.
those resources, and we have excellent resources. I've got one where outside of the banks, they're my strongest relationship. Cultivate Advisors, quick name drop.
Yeah.
They're a business consulting. They're a a business consulting group
That's
where
right.
they actually hire former business owners that have successfully exited their business. I think at last count, they've got like 45. And they have a variety of different industries. And so when I meet with a client and I actually provide a complimentary valuation to them, which is really important for us, and that's something I learned early on in my career.
Mm, mm,
I stopped taking on listings based on what the seller wanted for the business. And
uh,
I started only taking on listings where I came up with a value,
mm-hmm,
the seller was in agreement on that they thought that number would work for them. And if
mm,
they wanted anything above a 10% variance from that, I would say, here are the challenges that I see in your business, and this is why I came to this valuation. Most of the time, it's based on the financial performance, but every once in a while, um, it was glaring issues in what their policies and procedures were and their
mm,
business model. And so I'd say, hey, you should start working with either one of your existing resources that can help you coach to run your business stronger, or you can utilize, this service that, a lot of my clients have taken advantage of.
mm-hmm.
And, you know, a business advisor is going to work with a business owner to learn how to work on their business instead of in their business.
Mm,
I think that's the number one challenge in selling an existing business. And what
mm,
really hurts the seller is when they're so busy running the business and filling in for employees that they're not actually,
mm.
looking at ways to develop and grow and scale their business.
I totally agree, especially for business advisor. Is
Hmm.
not a business broker.
Hmm.
Business advisor, they also nurture and cultivating that
Hmm.
add value
Hmm.
before that put on the market. Then they work together, business broker and business advisor, 2 million value
Hmm.
of business after 1 year, 2 years later for
Hmm.
digitalization and reservation system and
Yeah,
CRM, 3.5 million.
yeah,
And,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not yeah, absolutely. It's not an overnight thing, and that's the number one reason why I refer to a handful of business advisors to work with business owners who
Mhm.
aren't quite ready for a sale at the
Mm,
dollar amount that they're looking for, is because, there really is maybe not exponential growth, but by putting in the work over, anywhere from 6 month time. I mean, sometimes the solutions are really easy, right? Work with the bookkeeper, go ahead and reconcile your past 3 years
yeah.
of
Mhm.
internal financial statements
Mhm.
to make sure that everything checks out and it's not all book journal entries, right? It may be low hanging fruit that easy, but sometimes, and I'd argue most of the time, it is hiring directors and managers to take over the day-to-day responsibilities for the seller. That's
Mhm.
probably the strongest thing that an advisor, or even you internally with, a library card can can pull up more than enough management books to help you figure that out.
Mm, that's right. And also for you mentioned technology, but just if you want to fix it,
Hmm.
if you want to add on in your service in work, what kind of technology, what kind of automation you immediately need right now?
Yeah, these are excellent questions, and I will, even though I generally am the young young person in the room in the rooms of business brokers, um, you know, I'm actually slow to adopt on new technology, but of the technology that, I've adopted over the past 10 years and our office has adopted over the past 10 years, a really strong CRM system to be able to
Yeah.
track all the buyers and sellers
Mhm.
and manage our online listings. That's been really important, right? We're probably saving at least ten office manager hours a week
Mhm.
in simply automating our NDAs to go out to go out whenever we get an inquiry from one of the from BizBen.
Mhm.
I think what's also important to us is that we are not automating, but we are setting reminders for customer
Reminder.
outreach
That's
so
right.
that we've got drip marketing. So if there's
Mhm.
prospective sellers that we've got that maybe we had sent away, that we're doing quarterly check-ins with them to make sure
Mhm.
see if there's anything else that we can help with. And sometimes it's just a conversation. Other times it's, referral to one of our partners that can help solve a particular challenge that they run into.
Mm.
Um, those are the two primary ways that we've been leveraging technology. And Joshua, I have to thank you. You have a wonderful system. I love going on BizBen to do searches on your platform so that I can show prospective sellers like, hey, this is what the market looks like right now. Granted, these are asking prices. These aren't prices that businesses are actually selling for. We actually do have several databases we leverage for that. But it's just nice to see what does the market for a particular industry look like, and you make that quite easy. And it's actually my go-to search engine when I'm looking for listings out there.
Thank you. And our job is we're going to make it order for data
Hmm.
and also migration. It's a make we can inform easy to our business broker and the M&A advisor as well. And Greg, then I know for you have many deal. For what is unforgettable, your mistake, and what is most remarkable deal in your career?
Yeah. God, I don't want to spend all my time focusing on the mistakes, but because wait, is this a 4-hour podcast? No, I'm just kidding. No. Um, obviously, I I think one of the biggest mistakes that or one of the biggest misconceptions that I had when I first started this industry was
Mm,
that I was a salesperson. And I was very
mm,
prideful of the fact that I was a salesperson in my last position as a private banker. I consistently won top awards, and I did it from a very consultative approach, right? I would ask my
mm,
clients like,
mm,
"Hey, what do you need help with?" And I'd find the right resource for them that
mm,
would solve that problem.
mm,
And I came into this position thinking that I would just be, going out and selling businesses all day. But I would argue that, I mean, for the other, new business brokers out there, I would argue that the only time that I really feel like I'm selling myself and our service and what our value adds are when I'm trying to win a listing, right?
mm, mm, mm,
It's really only at that point where I'm like, hey, choose me over the other person, right? And it's always, friendly competition. But once I get that listing, I really go more into project manager mode as well as as well as therapist mode, right?
uh,
The truth is
mm,
most business owners, this is, whether they're 40 years old or 96, which is the age of one of our oldest sellers that we just closed a transaction on last year, you know,
wow.
it's usually their first time and their last time selling the business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whereas in residential real estate, pretty much everybody knows how a house is bought and sold and what all the steps
Right.
are.
Mm,
But that's not the case even when it comes to SMB transactions. And so I really do feel like I am in the role of an educator. I'm helping the business
mm,
owner understand
wow.
during what
Therapist.
times
Mm,
it's
good,
necessary
good.
for them to
Mm,
do heavy lifting. And I usually describe that as on the front end when we first take on the listing, when we're putting up together a marketing package,
mm-hmm.
and then during the due diligence period. Those are the two times that I'm asking them to do a lot of heavy lifting for us. And it took me a while to figure that out.
Mm,
Um, and at least now that I feel like I do a better job of helping them understand what the cadence of a transaction is,
mm-hmm.
um, I feel like we've really improved our customer service scores.
Mm,
And the other challenge is, you know, uh, there's a lot of opportunity in business brokerage,
mm,
but you really do have to know so many different parts of the business brokerage transaction, right? You
right.
need to understand small business financials, right? How they work, how they operate, how they are not fully audited, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to be able to reconcile, recast those properly, knowing who the audience is, whether it's the buyer and what
Mm,
they can see themselves, what personal expenses they can see themselves running through a personal business versus what the bank will accept, right? Which is usually a
mm,
lot more stringent. Um, you have to understand business cycle. You have to understand industries and sub-industries. You have to understand, business owner psychology, right?
mm,
And in fact, we stop taking on business owners when they're not interested. I mean, when they're selling for reasons other than retirement, you know?
That's
because we tend to find that those are the ones that are
mm,
fully and emotionally committed to actually selling their
yeah.
business. So those were, I think, all of the mistakes that I made early on. The other big one, and
Mm,
every once in a while I still do make this mistake, is doing a calculation of working capital, right?
mm,
What working capital is passing along in the business? And in the beginning of my career, I said, "Oh, it's not necessary." But the
mm,
more and more you think about it, a business buyer really needs, quote unquote, the gas in the tank when they're buying the vehicle of
that's
the new
right.
business, right?
Mm,
And so they need them, you don't have one price for what the sale price is and then the additional capital injection that they need to put in once they bought this business.
mm,
So making sure that I'm pricing it out and packaging in as well.
wow. Mm,
You asked what are some of the successes that we've had? You know, um, there's several of those, thankfully. We've been really blessed over the past several years. One of the ones that I'm proudest of is a radiological calibration company that we
wow.
sold, I think, 3 years ago now. So in the midst of the pandemic, we're really worried. And I remember having a conversation with the business owner and saying,
Mhm.
hey, you know, who's qualified or who's eligible or, who does it make sense to sell
Uh,
this
mm,
business to?
mhm.
And he said, well, in California, there's three people. And we
Wow.
said, okay, great. Unfortunately, Joshua, this is not one of the ones that went on BizBen because I didn't want to put it out to the open marketplace because anybody inquiring on it would not have the necessary certifications for it. I think
Only three in 27 million.
yeah, three in the entire state of California, and thankfully we were able to reach out to all three of them. Excuse
Bless
me.
you. Mm.
And two of them moved forward with an offer, and we actually sold it in fairly short order.
Wow.
So really proud of that one. But the truth is I'm proud of everyone that we're able to get across the finish line.
Mm.
Our clients have worked so hard to build up their business, right?
That is
The
all of their life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
The people, some people couldn't understand. It is why you attach it with emotion. 30 years, 40 years, second generation. This is their whole life.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I would argue that, oftentimes to the principle of the business, to the,
Mm.
founder of it, their business is more personal to them than oftentimes even their home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're
Yeah.
supporting not only themselves and their family, but all of their
Mm-hmm.
employees. They're
That's right.
providing a
Mhm.
valuable service to all of their clients. And so I completely understand it. When I come in low with a valuation, sometimes people can't help but be a little bit upset that their life's work isn't amounting to millions and millions of dollars. But I also appreciate the fact, and so the goal is to help business owners sell their business so they can move on to the next step of their stage of their life. And it's really gratifying to work with a business buyer that recognizes all the
Mhm.
value that's built up into this business.
That's right.
Oftentimes paying attention to the fact that they want to continue the seller's legacy, right? They don't want to change
Mhm.
the name. They don't want to replace everybody overnight. They just want to support themselves and their family like the seller has. And
Mhm.
so, my favorite thing to do is 6 months post close, call up the seller, say, "Hey, how's the vacations going? How's the golf going? Do you want to go out sometime?" And then on the buyer's side, it's like, "Hey, how's everything going? Do you need access to any of my Rolodex?"
Yeah.
Oh, great. You know, Sales are up 15% just because you have new lifeblood in there and you've been taking account of all the stuff that
Mhm.
the seller shared with you. I think these are all wonderful things. And so that's what I really like about the business.
Wow.
Those are our daily successes.
That is one of a kind of leadership that you have, not just for help for transition of the business, and as
Mhm.
you said, therapists. They don't
Yeah.
know what is the problem, or which part was the pain, but your touches, and
Yeah.
also even they sell a sold in an
Mhm.
asking price, they have a concern. Oh, am I okay? 10 years from now, retire, and
Mhm.
as my children is okay.
Yeah.
But 6 months later, Greg, do you have any other business? Great.
It's so funny actually. My dad had a favorite saying, right? He had a favorite. He had the prototype of a perfect business broker that he
Uh-huh.
really liked to hire, and he was very successful at hiring them, and several of them are still with us. It's the business owner that's, sold their business, successfully transitioned, and, we get the call from them 6 months later or five
Mhm.
months later, and they'd say, hey, I sold my business, transition went well, very happy to not have all of that on my plate. But yeah, do you have another business for me to buy? And my dad would say, well, why do you want to buy another business? They're like, I realized I don't like golfing as much as I thought I did.
Mhm.
Traveling, I did a couple of trips and they all feel the same. And now that I'm hanging around the house and my wife or my husband is at home, they want to kick me out because I'm just getting in their way.
That's
And so he said, well, instead of buying a new business, why don't you become a business broker? And because,
oh,
the truth is that's if there's
yeah.
one thing I wish I did have in my skill set, or my experience, I wish I was a former business owner because then you'd be able to connect on a much
That's
deeper
good.
level, I think, with
Mhm.
a lot of business sellers. But it's okay. I try to make up with it with,
Mhm.
hard work and really understanding and working with a ton of different business owners.
Thank you. And Greg, I want to take you some maybe for 4 more hours with you, with the video and your mom, your parents. I
Sure.
love because I know there's many family legacy and multi-generation of the business broker and M&A advisor.
Yeah.
That is really precious. And
Mm.
also, we have almost a lot. My last question is, what is your legacy? What is,
Mm.
after 20 years later from now, what kind of legacy you want left to CABB, CABB, or for Sunbelt, or yourself and your family?
Oh, thanks for asking. It's funny. When you're young, you don't really ever think of the concept of legacy. But as
Mhm.
I've built a career in this, I've started to understand, and it resonates with me a lot more, the concept of legacy, right? And so
Mhm.
besides, being a family man and being able to provide for my family, um, I really do want my legacy to be that, I was an honest and forthright business broker, helping both sides equally and not taking sides.
Mhm.
I really appreciate the fact that I can say that I go to sleep every night. I'm able to lay my head on the pillow and not be haunted by, doing anything shady. Um, I really want to continue to, in my nighttime job, right,
Mhm.
push forward the push forward the mission of the California Association of Business Brokers, right? Recruit more business brokers into this space. Um,
Mhm.
not I mean have it, you know really focus on the education, because I'm still on a daily basis having to explain to people who a business broker is, and there's
Mhm.
so few, and that's why I think that we are an immature industry, and I say that not that it's just we are not well known, and so we tend to be more of an emerging industry versus financial advisors or CPAs or mortgage consultants. Everybody knows what they do, and so I want to continue making the public aware of what we do, um, and throwing good parties whenever we have our annual conferences. Really proud of the annual conferences that we've put on the past several years,
Yeah.
especially looking forward to the one that we have coming up in September 25th and 26th this year in Santa Rosa. This is my
Santa
plug.
Rosa.
This
Yeah.
is my plug for our call. Yeah, our goal is to continue what I think we accomplished last year, which is have the largest state association business brokerage conference. We had
Mhm.
over 270 registered attendees last year. I'd like to hit 300 this year. This is the first time that we're actually going to have a paid keynote speaker. He's consistently rated one of the top 10 in the entire world. So really excited about that.
Wow.
And yeah, I want to make education fun. That's my goal at all of these
Mhm.
associations, as well as having all of our affiliates like you. Thank you so much for your continued support of our association, and all the banks, escrow companies, technology platforms, marketing companies, advisors that come and support our association at these conferences, because you know, my first message every single time to all of the broker members there is, hey, please, you know, we've gathered under one roof
Mhm.
all of these resources for you. You know, this is the one time of year that you have all the resources that you need to run a successful practice.
Mhm.
Please make sure that you visit each and every one of them and assess whether it makes sense to hire them or not. Thank you again, Joshua. This is a
Yeah.
fantastic platform. I really appreciate the conversation. It was as easy as you said, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg, for your leadership. And also, one thing I want to suggestions for
Hmm.
September meeting.
Hmm.
Why don't we can make some kind of a buyer pass, buyers, a potential buyers pass. They can
Yeah.
come may just one day of some session. And another one is why don't we make it some QR code on the name
Oh,
tag?
okay.
Then you can just for capture the QR code, go to the website and email or LinkedIn. That is way easier to we can connect each other.
That's a great idea.
That's
Thank
just
you
my
very much. I leave it to the technology guy to make some really good recommendations. Thank you.
oh, thank you, and
Yeah,
Greg, and please bring my best regard and blessing to your parents. And let's have another time to share a recording for your family and more deeper.
fantastic. Thank you again. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg. God bless you and
Yeah,
see you soon in person.
sounds good. Sounds
Thank
good to
you.
me. Thank you, Joshua.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay, bye.